we going to get 6 inches of snow tonight or what? Because the highway is awesome.
All right, we're live now.
All right.
Weather talk.
Talkie. All right, here we go. Call this meeting to order. Roll call shows that we have Councilor Moody, Councilor Gary, and myself. And we might get Councilor Schulte later if we can get him on. That's what we have. We also have a slew of folks that are to be on the agenda. So that's for the roll call. Open forum, Patrick or anyone else, have we gotten any open forum letters or anything?
I haven't.
I have gotten a couple of inquiries, but those were inquiries directly to me, not to be communicated as public forum comments. So with that said, anybody else? Okay, then we will close the open forum and move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda has a typical 3 items: this agenda, the previous meeting minutes, and the payment of bills. Unless someone would like to take something or pull something for discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I would move to accept the agenda as presented.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? And I can, and to Anton, if you want to do it, you can do that.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, cool. So motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
I am an aye as well. The consent agenda is approved. So then we're moving right on. CEC. So we got Marais Somnus and we've got Ruth Psuaro. And is that all who came to represent you guys? Oh, we got Jan. Yep, looks like Jan's there too. So they are going to present a grant application to the council that would be something that would go in line with Highway 61 reconstruction and to complement it. So with that introduction, I will hand it over to you guys to give a little bit more of a scope of what you're talking about.
Thank you, Jay. I'll start things off here. There's some new faces. I have not met everyone. So again, Ruth Pisuaro, co-director and artistic director at the Art Colony. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. We have done some work with the Creative Economy Collaborative, and our ask tonight is for approval for the city to support a collaborative effort between the CEC and the city to apply for and manage a grant through the Arrowhead Regional Arts Council for approximately $5,000 for an artist public project for the summer of 2021. Just to step back, Mary gives staff support to CEC, and Jan is our current chair. And then our work has largely been driven forward by subcommittees. So I am on a subcommittee with 2 others, and our work has fallen into 3 buckets. Just a reminder that in April of 2018, the CEC was approved as the Arts Advisory Council to the city. And the 3 buckets that we kind of work within are to support and grow the arts and cultural sector as a key prosperity driver for the county. And so practically that means things like there's revenue that's dynamic and varied between events like the Arts Festival or the Wooden Boat Show. There's classes, there's gallery sales, like the economic impact of the arts and culture sector is quite large. So we support and promote a lot and do a lot to convene key stakeholders in the arts and culture sector. The second bucket that we work with is to support local artists and their work to thrive in Cook County with tools and resources that they need. And then the third bucket, which this project falls under, is to help address community issues, work towards solutions. And we see the detour, the construction of 2021 as one of those community issues that we can creatively support and help. And so the goals of this project, as we started thinking, how can we support the community through the detour and construction of 2021, is what if we worked with an artist who was well-versed in working with cities, who could create a project that would address that theme of detour and take a little bit of stress out of a time when there's a lot of uncertainty and new navigation and patience needed, so that as people might see something, there might be a reset in what their attitude is and how they're approaching the downtown corridor, how they go into a store. And we were looking at how to kind of have people participate in telling stories about just simply the detour being also this whole last year of COVID. So drawing out some of that narrative. So we started working toward crafting some of that project. And as my letter said, that's in the agenda, that Amanda Lovely is a great fit for us to work with. She's been the city artist for the city of St. Paul, and she currently works as the Parks Ambassador for the Met Council. She's great at translating ideas between the city and residents. And so just a brief overview, the project itself that she's proposed, and we've worked with her to kind of flesh out a little, we have quite a bit of work to do still, would be to gather stories of Cook County residents about times when they themselves experienced a detour or a time of waiting, and then take those snippets and translate those into signs that would be posted. And we'd work closely with the city and how to do that in the best format, but they'd be visual markers for people that look a little bit like, oh, that's a city sign. Oh no, that's a message that is really cool to read. And it helps me to kind of reset my attitude. So I'm happy to ask or, entertain any questions. That's the broad overview. And Jay, you've been a part of some of these conversations too. If there's anything that I've left out, let me know. But again, the ask is that the CEC subcommittee working with this project would craft the grant language, the narrative, would work with the city to submit it. And then the actual grant, the budget would be managed by the city to be the fiscal agent.
So one of the things that I appreciated about the conversations I've been a part of with talking about this project is that it's not two-dimensional. This project is not something that's just like, it's a presentation. It's got one meaning. It's got one presence. It's gonna interact differently with different people that come across it. That I think is pretty cool. It also fits in with kind of the idea of going the extra mile, in the process of all the detour and all of the construction and things that we're doing, that we are paying attention and we are putting a little bit more effort into making sure that that sense of Grand Marais still remains, even during the hecticness of the construction. You can still see the sign and read the story, and have that show you something else about the community when your regular, how you normally experience town has been disrupted. So those are some of the things I like about it, and the investment from the city in this grant, I think is pretty. It's not insignificant, but I also think that it's kind of minimal for the impact we'll get out of it. So those are my thoughts. I don't know if Anton or Michael, if you have any questions about it, now is the time to ask them, because we've got all the folks here who can answer those questions for you.
Yeah, I don't have a specific question, but I just want to say thanks, because I think it looks like an awesome project. And were there some visuals as well? Like, I feel like I didn't get them if there were. No, not yet. Okay.
No, not yet. We have not gotten to that point yet.
Anyway, I'm definitely in favor of it.
Well, I think I guess I just throw in that I think it's a great idea, and appreciate you guys, willing to work to put that together. I think anything that we can do to kind of, appreciate the detours we've all taken this past year, but also what is likely to be a frenzied summer, with people, or I don't know, last summer was pretty busy, I guess, but people feeling the urge to travel and come back up, and they'll be met with what could be a pretty interesting travel situation around Grand Marais. I think this is a nice approach to like Ruth said, help maybe people reset when frustration sets in. I'm interested to see what comes of it.
Okay, so what we're going to need to do with this is we're going to need to have a motion for agreeing to the partnership with CEC for the application, and then I believe also, Ruth, a letter of support to go with the application. So am I missing any parts of the city's involvement in this at this point?
No, that's right. We need a letter of support that would go to ARAC and then the motion.
Okay, so just so we're laying it all out, so this is for the application for the grant. We have not received the grant. We have to go through the process yet, and if the council votes to support this application, then that means that in the instance that the money is approved, then the city will act as fiscal agent for that grant. So that's what we're agreeing to if we get down to it, if we approve it. So now I'll ask if anybody has any motions, and we'll keep going.
Yeah, I would move to support the application and a letter of support.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Anton, your vote?
Aye.
Michael, your vote?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries. So we will get some more information from you, Ruth, about what we should be putting in said letter, and we'll try and get that to you as soon as is possible. So thank you three for coming to the meeting tonight, and thank you for the work that you do.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
All right. All right, so the next thing we have on the agenda, we have a slew of stormwater things going on, and we've got a slew of stormwater people on here as well. So I'm going to let you guys just take it away, because I don't know where you want to start with the items on the agenda and how you want to go through it. So dig in.
I'll get us started for the evening. So thank you for having us. We are going to go for a slew of stormwater. And I'm going to start us off by just talking about the stormwater management plan that the city has and providing a brief history, and then we'll tailor into going into other subjects, and I'll pass the baton off. So I'm going to attempt to present. We'll see how this works, because I am challenge. Let's see.
Ruth and Jen, to get off, you click on the thing that looks like an old-fashioned telephone to hang up.
Elena,
Yes,
there's
Patrick.
different options under present now. If like tab doesn't work, try window. Like sometimes just choosing a different option will get it to open.
Okay, did it work?
There
Yeah.
we go.
Yay, excellent. All right, so I have just a few brief slides. So I'm gonna start with, first of all, why in the world do you plan? And for those who don't know me, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. I'm Elena Hansel, I'm the district manager, and I'm also the county's water planner and the district water planner. So And I've been with the district for about 10 years, or almost 10 years here. So I'm starting off with why you plan, and I know some of it kind of carries on to both subjects under there, but it's important to understand that they connect and that it's a big part of planning. So that's always the question, is why do we need a plan? Can't we just throw stuff out there and just do the Band-Aid approach and it's good enough? But really, planning is important because it addresses a problem, it'll address a need, it has the science to back it up. So you're not just saying, well, you know, I've lived here for, which is really good knowledge to have, that historical knowledge, but just saying I've lived here forever and ever and this hasn't been an issue and now it's an issue and it's probably because something changed here and it's this person here and that person there. We get a lot of those phone calls, and to have that science to back it up is so important, to say, well, actually some of the problems is maybe because of this hydrology is changing here, or this happened here and it might be changing, and we can run it through some models. So it helps to address a problem and a need through science. It also provides that common understanding of the need. What actually is the problem? It helps to have those conversations of what are the problems, and it helps to understand some of the local knowledge and history. That it's really valuable to listen and talk to people who have lived in the area for a really long time and have been able to see those changes, and then to pair it up with that science makes a better understanding as to what the problems are and what some of the needs are that need to be addressed for the stormwater. Because as we all know, we're at the bottom of this hill, this beautiful hill, and all that water goes straight into the lake some way or another, and not a lot of it is treated. So, and these are pictures of the 5th Avenue or 5th Street going down, yeah, 5th Avenue. It just looks like a river that's down at the bottom of 8th. It's coming off of 10th and 11th, that all that stormwater is going down straight near to the lake, and then the ditch over by Humphreys, and that's part of the village ditch system. So those are just looking at some of the problems and things that need to be addressed. So then the plan also provides a solution and it provides results. Again, it's that science-based. You're looking at what is the science? What's it telling us? What are our solutions based off the science? Again, it's that common understanding of the solutions. It provides that results and impacts of the solution, and it applies a cohesive approach to problem solving. It's really easy just to look and say, we'll just fix this here, not worry about what happens, and we'll take care of that later. But really looking at the entire watershed and looking at the whole system is so much better long-term. It can save money, it can help protect the resources longer. So having that cohesive approach through a plan is just all the way around. What we have seen has been a better approach. And the city has a history of having a plan. They're on their 2nd plan, I believe. And so it's great. It's been paying off and it's been benefiting the water and the residents. So also it helps to have knowledge that's transferable between different groups and different people involved. So somebody else can pick up the plan and look at it. If jobs change, it just provides a cohesive document. And what the city has found too, especially more recently, is having this management plan opens up more accessibility to fund projects within the plan. Oftentimes what we're finding is if you can't connect it back to a city stormwater plan or even just to a general plan, it's hard for us to get grants. So the plan opens up a lot of doors. So the city of Grand Marais adopted the most recent plan in 2018. Emmons and Olivia Resources was hired. It was funded through a grant with the city, with the county, and with the conservation district. So there was a lot of money pooled in to get the plan completed. The plan, when they went through the process, they looked at the old plans, what work had been done, what work is currently going on, what's potential work. Looked at plan development, which included city and other agencies. Everybody had input. There was a public meeting. People wrote all over maps. Goals were identified. It looked at the watershed approach. If you look at the plan, which I'm not going to go through all the pages of it, but if you look at the plan, you'll see it's broken into smaller sub-watersheds, so you can kind of see how the water flows in different parts of the city. It was a usable product and information, or is, sorry, and for planning and working with the public. It's a tool for stormwater management, and our PC swim model was helped to inform the plan and to develop the plan. And it provides modeling which understands the stormwater, how that water is moving, potential impacts. And we're lucky enough that Matthias, who's here with us tonight, his office, which we work closely with, they're getting up to speed on how to use the swim model and to be able to utilize it with the city and information. So that's a big bonus for everyone. So I'm just going to give you a quick glance at the plan. It has objectives to it. It has supporting information of the plan objectives. There's lots of maps and pictures. The maps help to explain the objectives. They help to explain the data, the results, where can things be placed. It has maps of the stormwater infrastructure. There's identification of possible new and retrofit best management practices with estimated costs. So it's a pretty cohesive plan. It's not too lengthy. It has different ways it can reach different people. And this is a picture of Guinness. If you've never seen the picture of when it originally went in, this was when it went in many years ago, before its lush greatness that it is now. So this is an example of a map of potential best management practices. This is one that we have access to. It's what's in a format called a KMZ file, so we can click on it and then we can pan around. So you can look and see that there's different areas that have been identified for stormwater practices that will benefit different, maybe it'll hold water in an area or it'll treat water. So there's different benefits to the stormwater that can be done. It identifies also maybe different problem areas that need to be looked at more closely, like the area that floods down in Marais, and then it identifies within the plan some of these areas and what can be done there. So another look, getting closer and digging in deeper, some of the goals and objectives of their plan are to identify and look at the flooding, which we know you're not going to ever probably completely stop that flooding, but it's identified the threshold that the city is comfortable with for flooding and what event it takes place. It looks at water quality, natural resource health, regulatory possible controls, design standards, operation and maintenance, community awareness and involvement for the plan, and then monitoring and data assessment. So it also looks at corrective actions and an implementation plan, a table for mitigating flooding in downtown, and just a general implementation table, which we look at and can use in our office. Other benefits that we are able to utilize are the KMZ files to lay the stormwater structure on a Google map and to look at different areas and gaps, and then that PC swim model, which we're able to help use a little bit right now with the 8th Avenue project. So what's our role in helping the city? We are always here to help. We have a long history of working with the city and helping the city, so we're super happy to do so. We're looking forward to future projects and possibilities. We are able to be proactive, and so we really like to plan ahead and try to get on the front end of projects and planning, and instead of getting that call 4 or 5 years after projects are installed saying we need help, it's often a lot more expensive and more challenging to help at the end instead of at the beginning. Again, helping with projects and grants, and that's basically our role. We also do a lot of monitoring and education and outreach. I'm going to stop sharing here. And then I guess, so that's a little bit of the Marais Stormwater Plan 101. Are there any questions or comments anyone has? We have a copy of the plan. I know the city has a copy of the plan. It'll be good in a few years. We like to update plans every 5 years, but to revisit that with the city and say, hey, how are things going? What needs to be looked at for the future?
I'd like to point out to Michael, I know Anton's been here throughout most of the projects that we've done with soil and water. Well, he's been here for all the ones that I've been here for. But the partnership that we have with Soil and Water has gotten us literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants. And most of that money has gone straight into projects that we have put in the ground to help improve the water quality in the city. So the space that I'm working with when they come and make a presentation is that it's generally something that's quite beneficial for us, and that is a pretty good investment of our energy to put, to agree to, because they're doing most of the work. So that's my observation. The only thing I have to add. Any questions?
I will add, if I may, the one thing, Marais, just to give you a pat on the back, is in getting the stormwater management plan, the newest one, updated and using some of the funding that was utilized with that, which was watershed-based funding, is that it set the model for the shore. And so Two Harbors is like seeing what Marais is doing and now trying to mimic the same thing and seeing that there's implementation dollars associated with it. Beaver Bay is kind of starting to talk about it. And so you get, Marais kind of led the path and the trail for that. And so it's been exciting and fun to hear all the positive things that have come out of the stormwater management plan and the work that's been done.
Any thoughts or questions for her on the plan? Not, you can just soldier on.
All right, I'm gonna mute now and pass it on to one of my coworkers, Teresa.
I'll take over I'll try to present my screen. We'll see how this works.
It's a learning process. You do have to make some kind of water-related joke, just like Elena did, though. About,
Oh, man.
I mean, I guess I started it with the slew of people, but whatever.
A slew of people.
Yeah.
All right, I'm usually pretty good at multitasking, but to do
No.
the slew of people, I don't know. Or to do a joke. Okay, here we go.
It's fine if you just trickle in.
Do you see my shared screen?
Yep.
Fabulous. All right, I'm going to go on the coattail or the duck wings of Elena and roll off her back and talk about how she was at the tail end. She was talking about objectives and goals of the stormwater plan. And one of the huge ones is awareness, citizen engagement, and ways to outreach to the public, whether it be our residents or our visitors. And one way to do that is doing projects similar to what Ruth had presented earlier. And we are now coming to you with this storm drain stenciling idea that is not a new idea. We don't have it here in Grand Marais, but it is something that is widespread. I don't know if anyone's ever been to a community that does have it or some form of it, and it's always kind of a neat way to interact with their communities. So the simple proposal that we have before you in your packet, you have a one-page proposal, and then we'll go through the slides. The objective of this type of project would be to create awareness of water quality impacts. Not everyone may know that all the stormwater that goes in any drain in the city will eventually go to the lake, most likely untreated. And that we have this opportunity then with a simple storm drain stencil, whether it be painted or otherwise, we'll get into that in a minute, has an opportunity for engagement, whether you have citizens that go out in groups to actually paint these onto near or on the storm drains, or whether you do some of the other options that I'll present in a moment. It gives an easy way to spread the message, a simple message of, dump no waste, drains to the lake. It's kind of a good educational moment for a family to stand and see that, or within a neighborhood, whether it's when grass, people are cutting their grass and grass clippings are all into the road. It's a reminder to pick those up and not have them go straight into the lake. It's also a visual reminder to with that whole idea that all the water will end up eventually in the lake and most likely not treated. So what does it look like? There are many different options and many different things that a lot of communities have done. The first one on my slide is kind of the simplest, easiest way to get the job done, and it does do a very effective job, where you would either buy a stencil or have a stencil designed, and you would make your little spray booth out of cardboard, and you'd go around and either spray on the road, the gutter, or sidewalk somewhere near the storm drain, and a simple message, dump no waste, drains to the lake, or whatever it might be. And that might be more of where we have the conversation with the city as to what message they would want to have to say. Other options, the next one is a marker, and that one's metal, some are plastic. Those would either be glued or screwed into the concrete. They are a raised surface, so up here where we have a lot of snow removal, they might not be the best option because they might all disappear. Kind of another fun way that adds another component of complexity would be some kind of artistic contest or request for proposal, maybe even working with the art colony. We've had conversations in the past about developing some kind of idea similar to, I guess, what Ruth was sharing with her detour idea, but where you would have either artists you could do a contest type thing, or you could maybe reserve 5 different spots within the city where you would do more of an artistic representation of the same message and do the stenciling throughout the neighborhoods or something like that. So there are different options and ideas and things that have already been done. It would be more of a what direction would the city of Grand Marais like to take their opportunity to have storm drain stenciling project. So I guess how it would work would be the Cooks SWCD would be willing to do all the legwork as far as designing and organizing the storm drain project, whether that be, doing events and actually painting the things on there, or developing the program of, to make requests to the art colony and do more of an artistic representation of this message. We would create and distribute outreach materials and plan and facilitate these events and provide the supplies while funding is available. We do have funding that comes and goes for these very specific projects, or we'd be willing to apply for a grant that would be specific to a project like this. Whether or not this year would be the best year to do a bunch of painting on the roads, especially with the highway being, shut down for a while, it seems like maybe not the best fit, but we thought we had to have a starting conversation and a starting point so that we could plan and be directed as to what the city would be what framework we would want to work from. But there's many templates already out there. There's another component of Adopt a Storm Drain, where it would be your citizens would maybe take the storm drain that's near their house, and we'd give the pamphlet on how to clean it and make sure it's maintained and that type of thing. Just kind of adopt a highway kind of principle, but for a storm drain, or just the simple stenciling and marking so that it has this visual awareness. So I guess what's needed from the city at this point would be, approval to move forward if this is even an interest of the city to do, direction as to what type of option the city would be interested in pursuing, and then just support as it carries through. There isn't necessarily any big costs in this at this point, because we don't have a specific decision, I guess, as to what materials we would need to do it. But oftentimes a project like this, the soil and water would be we would have the wherewithal to get a grant or use funding that we have specifically for this type of project. And that would be maybe down the road as far as what funding would be needed. So I guess I put that out there as to what is needed from the city, and I will leave it to that if there's any questions or further information that is needed for me.
Teresa, I have a question about the storm drains. Which ones are we thinking about? How many are we thinking about? Or is that kind of an open question at this point?
It could be an open question. You could do it right. If you wanted to do just the stenciling, it's an easy way to engage citizen groups. You get maybe you have an Earth Day event and you have 10 groups that come to this event, and then you send them out to do 5 drains each. And, it could turn into a mapping component where you mark on there which ones have been done, so that when you have people or groups that want to do some kind of volunteer effort, that could be generated through us. Okay, we have 5 more areas that we want to hit, so we can assign those drains to you, and here's how you do it, that kind of thing, and set them up to get out there. So it could be an ongoing process where you wouldn't have to do it all at once or one day or one weekend. It could be kind of an ongoing process. If you did the artistic one, that's going to be a little bit more complicated or add more costs, and you might want to maybe isolate those to a few high visible areas that it would be, the message would be seen at a, I guess, greater impact. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's great. The thought came to my head that it was, it's funny that the CEC folks just left this meeting, because it would be a great partnership opportunity with them to reach out to the arts community in town to see, I could totally see us doing 2 things with this. One would be identifying some of the major drains on Wisconsin Street or downtown that would get more of a treatment, and then also having some kind of a Grand Marais specific stencil. Maybe it has the outline of Lake Superior with the lighthouse on it or something like that says drain to lake, that then could be the go around town and spray paint that one on, have volunteers go and spray paint that one down more readily. But I love the idea. I think it's really great. And I think you're totally right that the impact for investment is it's a pretty good ratio. So wondering what the council think. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to agree with that. A simple stencil could be, it's a very small cost, small cost for big bang, I guess.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to jump on to what you said, Jay. I was thinking along the same lines that it'd be nice if we pick some of those drains that are, really obvious that people can see in the downtown area or in the 61 corridor, and do something artistic there, and then have the neighborhoods, stencil up into the neighborhoods. I think that would be really cool. And again, having a unique design, stencil design that we could use would be very cool. And I could see lots of different groups getting into that. So that'd be cool.
Anton, do you have any thoughts? Do we still have him? Is he gone?
Oh no, I'm here.
Oh, he's totally present.
Totally present. No, I think this is all super awesome information, and I think I've certainly seen at least especially like the stencil version, in different places traveling around, and I think it's it seems like a pretty simple message, and yeah, I agree, and I agree with what everybody else said about the creative, collaborative. It seems like a good fit, and yeah, no, thanks for putting all this together and for all of you showing up. This is cool.
So Teresa, you're saying that you don't necessarily have grant money for this right now. You might have some of your just regular money for it, but would you need what kind of a commitment do you need from the council to move forward with this? If we make a motion to go ahead with this partnership with Soil and Water for stenciling and art, on drains, assuming that the CEC will kind of do they'll be the city's liaison and how that's going to look. Does that fit the need that you're talking about?
I think so. I think the idea of, too much development and then it not, going anywhere. I wanted to maybe, get kind of the city's idea before putting a lot of time and effort into one avenue that was like, no, totally not the idea that we wanted to do that. So I guess generating more of that idea of, okay, yep, this sounds like a great idea. Let's pursue it. Just the direction like you have given me, maybe stenciling up into the neighborhoods, and maybe isolating some of the more visible areas downtown where we could do more of an artistic presentation of a similar message. I think some kind of, and we would work, I would contact Ruth for sure. I think we had talked way back when Amy was the director. And so it's been a while since we kind of circled back to this conversation. So we wanted to pick it back up.
Right. And I think that we could definitely frame this with the CEC to say, let's put together at most a 2 or 3 month process to make sure we get get proposals, get the artists lined up, get things ready to roll, so that by the summer, or I don't know when you're thinking about the right time to do this would be, I'm assuming it would be the summer. We could have this ready to hit the ground.
Sure. And I guess that would be a conversation with the CEC or the art colony of some format. I didn't know, as thinking further into the summer as far as the highway project is going and other things, of whether that would be more chaos happening downtown or not, or whatnot, or how quickly we want to push this. Like I said, it could be phased. It could be stenciling in one area, and it could we could develop more of a program that carries through to a future year if it didn't seem like this year was the year. I don't know what people are feeling with the time frame.
Yeah, it's hard to say about what would be the ideal time frame. I don't really know if that's the correct term to be using for this summer. you know, anything that's road connected, other than maybe doing the spray painting of a stencil up in the neighborhoods. But
right. So maybe it would be we could start small and start with a small section and just do kind of a test run of that format and develop more of that artistic program, and develop our outreach materials that would go along with the program that way. That's how we could start this year out.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any rush in getting the artistic ones going. The high visibility catch basins are all going to be right in the midst of either construction or detour routes. So,
right.
But seems like we've got plenty of time to figure out how we want to do that, and then next summer is probably when we would do it.
So I guess what we need from you is just a word of, I mean, even just this conversation makes me feel better about actually putting all the time into preparing something more, more formal. So I appreciate all your time and, listening to what we have to say, and we'll continue on with the project and, connect with the CEC and talk with Ruth and her team.
Yeah. And I'll be in most of those CEC meetings too, but I think that what they can offer is they can basically get the concept to a point where then you and your office can have enough substance to it to actually be comfortable in acting it, or supporting it. So they can do a lot of that work in conjunction with you guys. So I appreciate you bringing it up. I think that we can make this happen. And like what Mike said, if we're creative and we're realistic about the time, within a year, or, at the most, I would say we probably can get most of this stuff done, or next summer would be when the majority of the art would actually happen on the streets. So, but yeah, that's cool. What is the rest of the council? You think that we should just give them the thumbs up, say, keep working on it, bring it back to us, work with the CEC, give us some updates, that kind of thing? Okay, so I think we'll do that then. Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you.
But you guys aren't done. You have more.
Nope, I'm going to pass it off to some more like actual decision making.
Save the big thing for the end. Okay, so who's next? Is that you, Phil?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of. Yes. Good evening. My name is Phil, and I think I've seen all of you before, but I am bringing up the end of the stormwater conversation, I think. I don't know, Teresa or Elena, are we talking? I think I'm the end. Anyway, so look forward to that. But I'm talking, just wanted to review a set of plans to reconstruct a stormwater pond at the corner of 8th Avenue, south of the highway there. So this is the big pond area going down into the campground where the old pool building used to be. So I am also just kind of seeking your input right now. The plans, as you saw maybe in the packet, are coming along, but we want you to give us your input and your blessing and any critiques so that we can incorporate those before we finalize them. So I guess maybe, I don't know if you want me to present really, or I can flip through the pages and just talk briefly about them, if that would be helpful, or you could just fire off questions if you already reviewed them thoroughly there. Oh, and Matthias is here. Matthias, are you visible? I don't know.
Yeah, he's right next to you.
Yeah, hi everyone.
He's not on my, there he is.
So I don't know.
The engineer.
Okay. Hi, Matthias.
Hey.
So maybe I can kind of jump in and start the questions, or maybe Phil, it's good for you and Matthias to give us a bit of a summary of the differences between the two plans, because I looked through the two differences, or through the two plans, and I picked up that one of them is a more intensive restructuring of the 8th Avenue stormwater catch basin, and the other end is a little bit less invasive. But other than that, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of details in there that I didn't engineer this plan brain is missing as far as what the impacts for the water treatment is. So that would be helpful for me at least.
Yeah, I'll take the easy one because I know there's going to be a harder one maybe. But real simply is that the more complex one removes more sediment before it goes into the harbor, and what's on the sediment is phosphorus, and what phosphorus does is grow algae. So and sediment also warms up the water and makes it cloudy. So that's the goal with that. Jump in, Matthias, if I say anything wrong. The simpler version has just one large basin, kind of like it is right now, but it will hold more water. The more complex version, as it's called, option 1, has a little small basin first to catch sediment, and then it has a larger basin. So it splits that same area. The existing pond is kind of the same. It'll be the same shape as what we're proposing. It'll just have higher embankment to store more water. Currently, the existing pond doesn't really hold a lot, so we could do better with that space, treat more water, and do better with it. We'll also make some improvements, like give it a little bit of a visual enhancement, kind of get rid of some of those invasive tansy plants, plant some more native wildflowers and shrubs, and give it a little bit more of a organized appearance to that entrance to the park. We've communicated with the city and with the park, and we're getting their input also, but wanted to talk about it tonight with you guys.
So are you saying that the outlet right now for the existing catchment basin is too low? It's not holding enough water to actually get the benefit of the treatment? Or did I mishear you when you were saying that?
That's where I would turn it over to Matthias. He can talk about that better.
Yeah, I can chime in. The existing pond, the outlet isn't too low. It's just that it doesn't really attenuate flows very much. So it, compared to the proposed designs, at least, it fills up with sediment kind of haphazardly. It's a very big pond. It has plenty of capacity as it is right now. And what happens is that the sediment kind of distributes throughout the pond area. There's not a lot of vegetation in there right now, but it infiltrates some water, and the rest of it shoots out of the existing outlet, which is adequately sized, but kind of on the small end. And then it has a very low emergency spillway. And so as bigger stormwater events pile up on the smaller outlet, a lot of it shoots out of that spillway into the stream, where it's been causing some erosion and incision, because it kind of just shoots right out of there. Before the 100-year event, I think it's somewhere around I shouldn't actually say exactly what event it is, but I don't have the model up right now, but I think it's between the 10 and 20-year event when it overtops that emergency spillway. So
wow.
So that's the idea between the two.
Okay.
The proposed pond, it attenuates flows a lot better. It has a much longer drawdown time. It's between 24 and 48 hours for different storm events. And so the kind of funky looking riser pipe detail that's in there has bigger and bigger orifices to handle those bigger flows as it fills up, and keep that drawdown time around 1 or 2 days, so that it gives the sediment in the water some time to settle out and get treated by the vegetation in the proposed pond. So that meets the two goals of capturing sediment, treating the sediment that's in the water, and then on top of that, we have the vegetation work that Phil kind of touched on, revitalizing the landscape with natives and invasive control. And also, we think we have a budget with our grant funding to help pay for extended maintenance of the vegetation, which is huge. Coming back year after year and making sure that the natives are doing well and thriving. So, roundabout answer to your question.
That's very helpful. Yeah, and both of the designs, if I read it right, have that what'd you say, funky tube thing, or however you called it, that that helps attenuate the flows and filter out sediment and things. So it seems like that might be a bigger part of the, of the design change, that and rising the walls or raising the embankments, or changing the way the embankments work so that things don't pour out quite so fast. Is there a preference or a preferred design, one over the other, or do they both accomplish the goals?
I can talk on that one, Phil, for a little bit. The primary one that I'm looking at is the more expensive one that has the two basins, the sediment forebay, and then the bigger treatment pond, because that way you're catching the sediment and then treating it also, versus just mostly slowing it down and capturing some sediment, but there's less capacity for treatment in the other option. And so given our budget, the one that does more work is preferable from my point of view.
Now, and the primary one that you're talking about, it collects more sediment, so it would need to be, I guess, dug out more often. Do you have a sense of what that cost might be? And also with that, is it hazardous? I mean, I know you said it's treated to some degree by the plants and whatnot, but is there any cost in getting rid of it?
So as far as it catching more sediment, I'm not sure that's exactly true. We don't have the model fully dialed in yet on how much pollutant loading is coming in. But I mean, ultimately, it's the same sediment coming into the pond, whether it's the existing pond or the proposed one. The difference would be that the proposed one has the sediment forebay that captures most of it in a smaller location before it spills out over the whole pond. And so actually, as far as maintenance goes, the idea behind that is that it's easier to get equipment in there onto the berm and just roll it in and scoop the sediment out of the forebay versus trying to pick an elevation and level it throughout the whole pond area. So.
And this is not something that's foreign to the city. I mean, we have the pond behind the co-op that we dig out about every 4 years. And my understanding with that is that what we dig out of that pond does get hauled someplace for like contamination disposal, but no, doesn't.
No,
I remember
it's
reading something about that, but maybe
it's
that was
just
for a different project.
taken away on trucks and probably put in a pit somewhere, and who knows how it's used in the future, Phil, for something. This pond, we've generally hired someone with a larger excavator to come dig it out on a periodic basis. I think we're just starting to talk now about how we would try to maintain these designs, and really the issue is, where does the equipment come in? So I've already started talking about that. Matthias talked about bringing it on the berm. And then would we try to do it ourselves with the hydro excavator trailer, or would we continue to have somebody come with a larger excavator? So we're starting to think about that. I think that the important point is that we will have a plan when, before this gets constructed, that we're comfortable with.
And to answer your question, Councillor Terry, that I think you could expect the same deposition from the watershed. It's just whatever erosion is coming off of this watershed currently is going to stay down there in this pond. So you'd probably expect the maintenance to be similar. Things like increased development upstream in the watershed, or poor erosion control practices will influence how much accumulates down here. But I would also point out, in case anybody missed it, that both option 1 and 2 have a continuous or a permanent pool of water, much like the co-op stormwater pond. And currently, this basin doesn't really always have water in it. It dries up kind of routinely. So that's one major difference.
So you guys have been working with the city on these designs, and we've got 2 that seem to meet the needs, one that's preferable, and it sounds like there's a budget for it and everything like that. So the next question is, what do you need from us? I mean, it seems like, do you need us to actually give you a motion that says, hey, continue with this project and move forward with the design? Or is it, one of these things where at this point in the process, you're just giving us the heads up, and then when actually the proposals and all the drawings about how it's actually gonna, bids and drawings and all that jazz are ready to roll, then we'll come for approval. So
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion. I think if you could tell us which design option to no longer invest in time in, and then which one to focus on, that would be what we need today, and then any changes that you want to see with the preferred option. So, and we can continue to have conversations, but just I guess formally, someone can communicate that to us now or soon or something. I'm not really good at the formalities of things, but I think we all talk or see each other routinely enough.
well, counselors, do you have any reactions to the designs or to the presentations that have been given about a design that works or not?
I mean, I did find the more expensive one more compelling, not because it's more expensive, but it did seem like it was getting to the kind of clean water that we would want to have, as best as we can. So I'm inclined to go with that, especially since it falls within the budget. So I'm not finding a good reason not to go for it.
Anton, you have any thoughts?
No, I mean, I guess I agree with Michael. I mean, I think I'm not a hydrologist or an engineer, so I don't really, I can't speak to, why we would look at the first one over the second one. It seems like if folks that understand this better, Teas and Phil, lean that direction. I think like if the work is going to be pointed in a particular direction, it would be towards that second option.
The second option?
Right, the more, I've just been trying to, as they've been talking, looking through all that stuff here, as they've been talking about it. Right, it's the second,
I thought the first one was the more expensive one.
Correct, yeah. The first one has the forebay where it'll concentrate the sediment to be removed in a smaller area, and the second option doesn't have that.
Yes.
In the second option, you can dewater and draw down when maintenance is occurring, but you'll have to drive around more and down in there. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Right. Sorry. It's a lot of information there. It's kind of neat to look at and try and understand how the process works and all that.
All the colors and all the different patterns, which mean different types of riprap and different surface coverages and things like that.
Exactly what elevation you're looking at as you try and understand it all. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. No, sorry. My mistake. First option.
I was going to say, maybe you ask questions about that plan set. It is a lot of color and lines. So you're all welcome to get in touch with me or with Phil and raise any specific questions too. Be happy to help. So
I would agree with the rest of the counselors that the first / more expensive design is more compelling in that it seems to meet our goals and also have maintenance in mind. And that's a big thing to go forward, is that we don't want to create a burden that's something we're not able or willing to do in the future. So that I would say that going forward with that first design is that works for me too. So I think that's pretty much all we need, eh?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Cool. Any last comments or thoughts for the soil and water folks? All right. Well, thank you for coming and presenting, and thank you for all of the ideas that you keep giving us for how we can make the water runoff and everything better in the city. We look forward to meeting with you again sometime.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. So, that gets us down to council and staff reports on the agenda. Unless there's something we didn't have anybody add anything to the agenda. We do have a proposal from Flatty Hood for the administrator position, what that would look like going over that. However, Kelly couldn't be here tonight, and I'm not certain I'll be able to be at the next meeting. So that might get bumped a couple of meetings so that we can have everybody present for that. But, I'll take a look at it and see if there's anything that I can contribute in that conversation. If there isn't, then maybe we'll just move on with the next, if I'm not able to make it to the meeting after that. But other than that, I think it's time for council and staff reports. So, Anton, do you have anything? I suppose you just turned your screen off, so maybe you are dealing with something, but, oh no, he's there.
I'm here. Let's see. I don't really have much. The most kind of conversation I had was with Go Dog North Shore, and I think Mike has some things to fill in on that. So maybe I just kind of, if he brings some things up about that, I could maybe talk a little bit more then. And we had an EDA meeting last night. I guess the biggest thing is it sounds like there's actually legislation happening right now to change some of the language in the business park to allow owner-occupied throughout the entire Cedar Grove Business Park. Instead of right now, we have just a handful on the west side that are kind of slated for that use. But it sounds like there's legislation in action right now to change the wording and the kind of with the funding and how that was built, there was restrictions set on that, and they're working on reversing some of that. It sounds like there was been a lot of conversation from interested parties in doing just that, but the couple lots that are left didn't fit the needs of what they wanted to try and do. So, I guess it'll be interesting to see if that happens, what that does to try and, finish selling off those lots. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I guess one more way to open them up to interested parties that don't have to make the choice between starting a business or building a home or buying a home. They can do it in one spot. Hopefully will help. So I think that's pretty much the gist of the EDA meeting. I'm sure if Mary was here, she'd tell there was other things that were very important. But
I think Mary is here. Right.
She's still here. Oh wait, I see an M down there. That must be Mary. All right. Well, she hasn't jumped on, so.
Oh, she's unmuting.
Oh shoot.
There she goes.
Yeah, I'll just provide a little more clarification to that. What's going on regarding Cedar Grove? The state is changing the language in the grant program to enable all business parks statewide that received those grants, if they haven't sold lots, that the restrictions in the grant say the purpose is manufacturing, warehousing, and industrial. And the new language is going to say for any lots left unsold 10 years after the grant award, the restrictions go away. And so then I actually will hope to be coming to the council soon. I'm sure I'll be talking with Mike. I'd like to start having the conversation with you about what you would be willing to do in the ordinance to change the zoning to allow for what uses are you comfortable with. I would recommend owner occupied through the whole business park, but we need to have some conversations about all of that. So thanks, Anton. Good job.
Anything else,
Thanks.
Anton?
Thanks for setting me straight, Mary.
There. Anything else?
No, that's all I got.
Michael?
Nope, I don't have anything, but I'm excited about that idea of expanding the possibility of having people living in the business park there. I think that's a great idea.
Cool. All right. So I haven't had a lot of meetings either, but there is the racial equity and justice meeting that's happening right now, and so when I jump off of this, I'll jump on that. So so that's pretty much all that I've got. Mike, Kim, Patrick, anything? Yes.
Yeah, I've got a few things. So Craig and Kelly did attend some meetings last week. The Planning Commission and the Public Utilities Commission both met. So just brief updates. The Public Utilities Commission discussed late fees and shutoffs, which were put on hold last year as a step to address potential effects on folks from the pandemic. And so the PUC is discussing when the appropriate time is to reinstate late fees and shutoffs again. And we're probably looking at doing that in the near future. They did review some data about what our past due balances look like and how many customers are really haven't been making payments and what kind of payments, what kind of balances folks are getting behind on. So I think we found that it's really not been used by as many people as we would have expected. Maybe a sign that people weren't affected by the pandemic in ways that they may have been. There are some folks, of course, that were, and we're going to figure out how to help them get through that process on dealing with their past due balances. So that's always a tricky conversation. Planning Commission just had a quick kind of introductory meeting. They haven't met yet this year, so we didn't want to let another month go by without doing that. We haven't had any applications for public hearing style items, but they did talk a little bit about what are we going to do moving forward. So that probably have a lot more to say after next meeting. I think they're going to spend some time selecting what they want their work plan to be for the year and what the policy issues are they're going to go over. And then Anton talked a little bit about, I was going to hopefully bring something up on the Go Dog question. I'll just put that in the context of last meeting. We were left with Sawtooth Bluffs, where is that at? And I was going to be meeting with James, and I did have a nice conversation with James. We talked about Sawtooth Bluff and what it's going to take to kind of get that moving again. And I think, the Sawtooth Bluff was not something that the council selected as a top priority a couple of years ago when you last did your prioritization. And it's possible that one of the reasons that wasn't selected was because we were all working under the assumption that the county was taking the lead on it and that it would still get done and we wouldn't have to have it be one of our priorities. Well, clearly that's not the case. The direction that we had back then isn't how it's worked out. There's been quite a bit of turnover and some changes in how the county's organizing itself. And I think James is going to be trying to get up to speed on where they're at on this, but the assumption that we don't need it to be a city priority if we want to see it happen is probably not real. So we're going to be looking at prioritization again, probably in April, I'm hoping, but we'll be talking about the scheduling of that soon. And I think it's just an important point is council, if this is an issue you want us to be moving on quickly, then it's going to have to find its way onto the priority list. And, that might be displacing some other items. It might just be that we've already finished some other items, but that's a conversation yet to come. other things I talked to James about are another item that was on your priority list, which is reworking the 3 contracts that we had selected and actually begun working on a couple years ago with the county board. And when Jeff was here as the administrator, the law enforcement contract, the street maintenance contract, and the contract for supporting the community center and the YMCA. And that, I think, was a victim of both turnover and COVID as well, and hasn't had any traction. And that's something that James and I'll be starting to work on again. James will be bringing it to the county board and trying to get them back on. Of course, they've had quite a bit of turnover on their board as well. And so there's some groundwork that needs to get covered here for that to get started again. And then finally, the Go Dog, how does it fit into all that? I mean, the idea of them getting permission from the city to use a piece of Sawtooth Bluff property and seek funds and develop it, I don't think that's particularly realistic, because there isn't a driveway, there isn't any services, there's just that we haven't even done a wetland delineation. There's an awful lot of really big steps that are going to be required before I think anybody's going to really be able to feasibly use that property. And our plan for getting those steps done initially was to work through the Sawtooth Bluff committee to come up with a contract of how the property is going to be jointly managed and maintained between the city and the county, to finish the master plan, to get designated officially as regionally significant, and then to seek funds from the legacy from the state to do a phase 1 construction, which includes a driveway, a parking area, maybe some building concessions, some restrooms, some utilities, all the necessary services that would then support any user groups that want to come use that property. That was the initial plan. The fastest I could imagine that happening, and I don't think this is going to happen, is that 2 or 3 years from now we're seeking funding and doing construction. It's probably going to take longer than that. And so then turning it over to a user group before that happens would really be asking them to take on a very large project that I don't think they have. I just don't think it's fair to ask anybody to try and take that on. It's more than they would be realistically able to accomplish. Having said that, I don't want to be like the only person standing in the way of that. If everybody thinks, if there's a group of volunteers that thinks they can come up with the funding to work on this, I'm open to talking about it. And then the idea of finding another location that's temporary, that's probably better in terms of feasibility of getting it done. But the business park location may not be the spot. That's where we're focusing our efforts right now in planning the dog pound. And that means we may end up acquiring a piece of property that's large enough for both. Although I don't think any of the user groups want that to be shared space. That might still be the easiest place for this all to end up for the time being. But building in the business park is, although the land is easy to acquire, doing the development is not as easy. And we're just starting to talk, the EDA and us, about stormwater management and putting a project together to really make it clearer for folks that are buying lots up there what they need to do for stormwater management. But the bottom line of that is that in order to build the dog pond there, we'll need to create a stormwater management plan and potentially build a pond. And suddenly a big chunk of our budget is going into not dog pound things. So that path just isn't solid yet, is what I'm trying to say with that. So I think there's more to come, and we'll hopefully have that all sorted out before construction season starts this year. But it's hard to give Go Dog a real clear, this is a place that's going to work for you answer right now. And I don't think we'll be able to for a little while yet. That's what's going on here. Lots and lots of things.
So thanks, Mike, for that. Do you think, so when you said April, is that when we're going to try and do another planning session with the council and with, heads, department heads to like we did, what, I don't even, was that last year we did it at higher ed, or was that, I don't remember when that was.
It was a couple years ago now.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the idea, that we've gone through and looked at some of the bigger plans now. And tonight, you know, we looked at the stormwater management plan, for instance, as kind of good background information. The idea was we would do that at council meetings the first part of this year, and then we would plan that session to do prioritization. Although the schedule is looking good to do it in April, I still think we have to figure out just how we intend to accomplish it, because we're not going to be able to do it the way we did before, putting 20 or 30 people in a room together for 6 hours and doing the exercises. Patrick's been working with you all individually on some of our code enforcement things and trying out some exercises that we can do individually and maybe get some of the work done that way. And then so maybe this won't be a one event. Maybe this will be more of a couple of week process of doing work individually and then getting together to look at the results of it. Again, we're just getting started on the planning for it. So I guess we'll have to keep you up to speed on that as well, but that'll be the timing to go back to that question, Anton, of where is Sawtooth Bluffs fit?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it definitely, like you said, I think it definitely changes, right? It changes thing when that kind of piece that we were looking at to be crucial into the movement forward on it is kind of disappeared from the scenario, you know, and yeah, I guess I look forward to doing that and having that conversation so we can just see how everybody else feels about its priority level. Thanks for that, Mike.
Anything else? All right. Well, hearing that we have none else, then I will adjourn. So we're all done. Thanks, guys.